Hi folks, HR Funk, back out on the range with my Remington R51 pistol. If you saw my video from last week, you know that I just purchased this pistol and I took it out for the first time when I made that video. And for the most part, the pistol did okay. It ran flawlessly with full metal jacket ammunition, but I did have two malfunctions when I was shooting jacketed hollow point ammunition through it. So as I said in that video, I contacted Remington to discuss the problem with them. And the gentleman that I spoke to in customer service was very helpful. And he said that the pistols come with overpowered magazine springs. Now, this was one of the things that I was considering when I was thinking about the types of malfunctions that I was having. Because what it seemed like was happening was the magazine was losing control of the cartridge during the feeding process. And in one case, the bullet completely missed the chamber and went almost straight up out of the magazine and wedged against the top of the barrel hood. And in the other instance, the cartridge came completely out of the magazine as the slide was cycling, and it was captured between the back of the slide and the barrel hood, again completely out of the magazine, and in fact there was another round trying to feed underneath. So in both instances it looked like the magazine was losing control of the cartridge while it was feeding. So this idea of an overpowered magazine spring, again, was kind of consistent with what I was seeing. So I asked, of course, what can I do about that? And he said, just go ahead and continue to shoot the pistol and see if the problem works itself out. Well, I went one step beyond that. For the past week, I've left both of my 7-round magazines for the R51 fully loaded, with the idea I was going to compress those magazine springs and see if I could get them to relax just a little bit. I also alternated keeping them loaded in the pistol so that the top round would be bearing against the bottom of the locking block and compressing that spring just a little bit more, again, to see if just that little bit of TLC, if you will, would get the magazine springs to release and solve those functioning issues. So what I'm going to do in just a couple of minutes is start to fire the pistol again. Now, another thing that I believe with the R51 pistol, because of its fairly unique operating system with the hesitation block and all that, is that it requires a break-in period. Now right now this pistol has about 130 rounds of ammunition through it. I'm going to run another 100 rounds of FMJ ammunition through it just to kind of further that break-in process for the pistol. After that, I've got several different types of hollow point ammunition that I'm going to run through the pistol and see if I continue to see problems, or if I see problems only with one or another sort, or just exactly how the pistol runs after I put another 100 rounds of ammunition through it. Now, I'm not going to make you folks sit through me shooting this pistol through 100 rounds of FMJ ammunition just to help break it in, but what I'll do if I have a problem during that time that I'm shooting that 100 rounds, I'll start the video again, I'll show you the malfunction that I had, and see exactly what, if anything, I think might be contributing to that at that point. So with that being said, I might take a little bit of video while I'm shooting, but again, I'm not going to have you sit through 100 rounds of me firing off the pistol. That would be pretty boring. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to do some shooting with the pistol, and we'll see how it does today. One other thing before I start to shoot, folks. If you saw that video last week, you remember the point of impact for the bullets that I was shooting was fairly low. With the 115 grain Blazer brass ammunition, it was about 3 to 4 inches low at 30 feet. And for the 124 grain gold dots, it was a little better. It was 1 to 2 inches low at 30 feet. And I discussed that with the gentleman from Remington Customer Service as well. And what he told me is there is no replacement front sight for the R51. The sight height that it comes with is the sight height that you have. But he said that, just as we saw, adjusting the weight of the bullets will help with that elevation, or the elevation of the strike of the bullet when you're shooting the pistol. Something else that I found while doing a little bit of research on the R51 is the sights themselves. Apparently the way the sights are regulated is different from most other pistols. Most of the time, when you sight a pistol, and I'll see if I can line this up so you can see it, you want the tip of the front sight to be even with the top of the rear sight, and the bullet generally is going to impact, if you have the sights adjusted correctly, right on top of where you're seeing your front sight. With the R51, apparently the sights are regulated differently, and supposedly the bullet is going to impact where the dot is on your front sight. Basically the middle of your dot of your front sight is where the bullet's going to impact. And again, if I can line this up and get you a sight picture here, which is difficult to do. So if I'm looking at this, my bullet is going to hit where the dot of the front sight is, not where the top of the front sight is. So again, this is something I'm going to have to condition myself to, because after decades and decades worth of using what I'll call the traditional sight picture, this is going to be something that's going to be a little bit different for me and take a little bit of acclimation. So anyway, I'm going to get ready to go. The pistol was cleaned and lubed after last week's video with it, and we're going to see how it does today. All right, folks, I'm set up and ready to go with my further break into the R51. I am going to take a little bit of video of these first two magazines because when I'm shooting, I'm going to be trying to reprogram my brain to think about that new sight picture that I was talking about a couple of minutes ago. So I'll take close-up video of the target as well, and you folks can see how well I do, or how well I don't do. But in any regard, here we go. Seems like that new sight picture is helping a little bit. Oh, and I don't think I said it before, but I am shooting from 30 feet as I'm doing this. Well, folks, adjusting the sight picture certainly seemed to help with my point of impact. I'm keeping them pretty well centered. They're still going a little bit low and to the right. This could be me still getting used to the pistol. The ammunition I'm using today is still 115 grain full metal jacket ammunition, but right now I'm shooting Browning 115 grain FMJs. And I do have another box of the Blazer Brass 115 grains that I'm going to shoot through here as well. But so far, so good. There were 2 complete 7-round magazines through the pistol without a hitch. I'm going to keep shooting, and I'll see how it does. Well, folks, as promised, I told you I'd let you know if I had a problem. And this is the first round out of the magazine. I had 1 round in the chamber and 7 rounds into the magazine. And this is the second full magazine that I shot since I took the last video. So I reloaded, fired 1 round through. It was loaded the same way. 1 round into the chamber, 7 rounds into the magazine. It ran flawlessly. This one, there was a round in the chamber, fully loaded magazine. And when I shot the first round, it cycled, and as it came forward, again, the magazine lost control of that top round, and it didn't feed properly. I'm starting to think, too, there might be an issue with the feed lips themselves, more so than just the magazine springs. But I'm going to keep shooting and see if this is just an anomaly or if I start to have this problem more. Now, this is the first failure to feed that I've had with a full metal jacket round of ammunition. Okay, folks, I'm set up to try the same exact thing again that I just had the failure with. I've got 1 round in the chamber and a fully loaded magazine. This is the same cartridge on top that did not feed the last time. So let's see how it does this time. Made it through the first round with no problem that time. Okay, and I made it through the rest of the way with that magazine without a problem. I'm going to keep these 2 magazines separated and try to find out if there continues to be an issue, if it's only an issue with one magazine or if it occurs with both magazines. Okay, again with the same magazine I had the problem with the last time. This time I've had my first ever nose down of a cartridge. Never had that happen before. It's gone nose down into the front of the magazine. I know this is a problem that's happened with some other folks' R51s. This is the first time I've had it happen with mine. This is still with the Browning 115 grain full metal jacket ammunition. And again, this is the same exact magazine. So if I get lucky, maybe I'm just going to have one problem magazine that needs to be replaced and the other one's going to be okay. So I'm going to keep shooting, and again, I'll let you know if I have another problem. At this point, all 50 rounds of my Browning FMJs are gone, so I'm going to be switching over to Blazer Brass 115 grain ammunition. Now this stuff ran flawlessly last week when I ran it through the pistol, but through the first 50 rounds with my Browning ammunition, we did have those two failures. The one where basically the cartridge came straight up out of the magazine, and the other just the opposite. It went nose down into the front of the magazine. So we'll see how 50 rounds of the Blazer Brass runs. And here we go with the first 8 rounds of Blazer Brass ammunition. Again, 115 grain Blazer Brass ammo. Again, I have the pistol loaded with 1 round in the chamber and a fully loaded 7-round magazine. Let's see how they run. Not very well. That time, I had a failure to eject. The fired casing is caught right there. It was extracted, but it did not eject from the chamber. And every single problem I've had has been with the 1 round in the chamber and the first round out of a fully loaded magazine. Again, indicating to me that something about the pressure on the column of ammunition with that very first round out of the magazine is causing some problems. This one could well have retarded the hesitation block as it was moving backward with the slide. So I'm going to clear this and try to figure out something to do next. Alright folks, I'm going to do a little bit of on-the-range gunsmithing. In discussing the issues I had last week in an online forum, there was a very helpful gentleman on the Remington R51 forum. I never even knew there was a Remington R51 forum until I was searching around last week and happened to find it. But he told me that one of the things he had done to modify his magazines was to shorten the legs on the bottom of the followers by about 1/16 of an inch. And he said that he had been having some feeding problems, and that was one of the modifications that he made to help solve those. Now, because I'm thinking that this first round out of the magazine seems to consistently be causing me a problem, it seems like if those legs on the follower are a little bit too long, and that's helping exert more pressure up against the bottom of the cartridge and ultimately against the hesitation block as it's trying to cycle with the slide, maybe that could account for some of the problem. So I'm going to disassemble my magazines, and I'll show you exactly how I'm going to do this to shorten those by about 1/16 of an inch, which is about 0.0625 inches. I'm probably going to shorten them about 0.06 inches, and just see if that makes any difference with the functioning in the R51. Folks, at this point I've disassembled my magazines, and here is one of the followers. It's a little bit difficult to measure the length of the legs because of these angles. So what I've done is used my caliper to measure from the bottom, and the measurement that I'm getting on the front is 0.790 inches. So if we reduce that by 0.06 inches, that should be about 0.73 inches. And at the back, the measurement is, once I can get it, about 0.650 inches. Again, if we reduce that by 0.6 inches, we should be down to about 0.58 inches or so. So here we go. This is not going to be very sophisticated because I am on the range. This would be easier with a belt sander, but I'm just going to take my follower. Now I want to reduce these evenly. I don't want the follower to start to tilt in the magazine tube. So I'm just going to put this on this piece of sandpaper, and I'm going to work it back and forth some. And I'm going to stop periodically and measure it. And I'll let you know when I get it reduced by 0.06 inches. Well, it didn't require much effort with that sandpaper to remove a 1/16 of an inch from the bottom of the legs of the magazine followers. So I'm going to load these things back up and we'll try it again and see if I accomplished anything. All right, folks, 1 round in the chamber, 7 rounds in the magazine. Let's see if they run any better now than they did the last time. So far, so good. I'll load up again and we'll try the other magazine. And here we go with magazine number 2 after our modification. Again, 1 round in the chamber, 7 rounds in the magazine. Well, folks, post-surgery, the R51 seems to be running pretty well. These are my last 2 magazines. Again, 1 in the chamber, 7 rounds in a fully loaded magazine. Let's see how they both run to finish up that box of 115 grain Blazer brass ammunition. Well, and of course I spoke too soon. This is the exact same problem, and I can show you a close-up now, that I had with the 124 grain gold dot last week. Notice how this cartridge has completely escaped from the magazine and was captured between the back of the slide. Actually, it's captured between the front of the hesitation block and the bullet is bearing against the rear of the barrel hood. So that cartridge came completely free from the magazine and got captured up there. So I'll clear this. I don't know if I'm going to shoot this with hollow point ammunition today or not. I'm not sure if it's going to be worth the effort. Maybe I'll try a few rounds just to see how they run. But again, I'm continuing to have problems even after trying to do some modifications out here. So what I'm going to do is contact Remington again and see if I can get them to send me 2 new magazines, because these are not running right. It really looks to me like a magazine problem. The pistol itself is cycling well. I'm not really having any issues with the pistol. It always seems to be a magazine related issue. So I will be contacting Remington to see if I can get that cleared up. Folks, one thing I did want to show you was a problem that I seem to have solved today, and that was the problem of hitting low with the R51. Changing that sight picture to where I have the center of the dot in the front sight basically lined up with where I want to hit the target, raise that point of aim, or that point of impact rather, for the bullets. And that's looking a lot better from 30 feet than it did last week when I was shooting. Folks, I want to try one last thing out here today before I call it quits. I want to try running the R51 with some actual Remington ammunition. The only Remington branded ammo I have are 124 grain Golden Sabers. So I'm going to be testing it with hollow points the same time I'm testing it with Remington ammunition, and we'll see how it runs with that. Again, I've got 1 round already in the chamber, and I've got 2 fully loaded magazines. So let's see how they run. Well, that magazine ran flawlessly, all 8 rounds, and something else changed too. I'm going to walk down range and point out another change that happened with the Remington ammunition. You might have noticed while I was shooting that I stopped after this first shot, and the reason is because I was using that sight picture that I was talking about before, where I had the dot of the front sight right in this area here, and that shot hit high, which really caught my attention. So the next couple of shots I fired, I noticed I was hitting here, and in fact, this was hitting exactly point of aim for a traditional sight picture. I fired out the rest of those shots using a traditional sight picture and kept them in a tight group center mass from 30 feet. So that's kind of interesting. The point of impact shifted to exactly what I would have expected it to be with any other kind of ammunition, and all 8 shots ran flawlessly. Let's try the other magazine and see how it does. And here we go with the second 8 rounds of Remington Golden Saber ammunition. Again, 1 in the chamber, 7 in the magazine. Let's see how they run. And that time I did have a failure. Again, it's that odd malfunction where the magazine completely loses control of the cartridge. The cartridge is up above the chamber, or the bullet is, and the rear of the cartridge is captured by the front of the hesitation lock. So the magazine has completely lost that cartridge, or lost control of it. And I'll see if I can get it cleared. Now, one thing I will mention, every single malfunction I've had has been with a fully loaded magazine and a round in the chamber. If that first round cycles, then the pistol seems to run fine. But it's getting that first round to cycle that seems to be a problem. Now here we're going to have 7 rounds in the magazine and none in the chamber, and I suspect these are going to run just fine. And they did, no problem whatsoever. So this is definitely a magazine issue, and I'm going to be calling Remington again and telling them there is some kind of problem. Folks, I have to make a confession to something I just figured out as I was collecting my fired brass. There were 2 times that I loaded the pistol up and I had the camera running and said that I had a round in the chamber and 7 rounds in the magazine. And when I fired the pistol, I thought all 8 rounds ran fine, but I also both times thought that I only counted 7 shots, and I thought, well, I must have just miscounted as I was shooting. And I just found 2 live rounds laying on the ground. So what happened, I think, with both of those instances is I fired the first round, and not only did the magazine lose control of that top round, it ejected from the pistol along with the fired casing, and the pistol cycled on the next round of the magazine and continued to fire. So again, very odd malfunction on the part of the R51, and as I've said before, I'm a one-man show, so I didn't catch that until I was picking up brass. If someone was watching or filming me, they might have seen that happen as it occurred. Again, I didn't catch it until I was picking up brass when I was done. So that's the video, folks. I am going to be contacting Remington again, and we're going to be having a little bit different discussion than we had the last time about the R51, and I'm going to see if I can get them to send me some replacement magazines. These problems that I'm seeing almost certainly are 100% magazine related, and the magazines need to be replaced. The pistol itself seems to be doing what it's supposed to do just fine as far as cycling and the hesitation block doing what it's supposed to do. I had 1 failure to eject, but again, I think that had to do with the pressure of the cartridges pushing up on the bottom of the hesitation block and keeping that from moving the way it's supposed to. So again, I think it's all magazine related. So that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those below. And as always, until next time, good shooting. Bye-bye.